closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk, 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 just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk, just a closer walk, just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk, 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 just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk. Just a closer walk with thee.
Hallelujah. That's what you do. You turn that thing on there. And Psalms 34, we did that in Sunday school. You missed a good blessing, so I'm going to give you a little recap. I want to thank you again for those who, especially Becky. I think she probably did a lot of cooking for the Panther feed. And I want to let you know that that's a pretty powerful thing to be able to go and share the gospel with all those guys. It's just wonderful. Psalms 34 is interesting in that David wrote this psalm at probably the lowest point, one of the lowest points of his life. If you remember, David wrote almost all the Psalms, and here he was out there in the wilderness as a little boy keeping watch. You remember he went to talk to his brothers when they were fighting Goliath, and his brother says, "What are you doing here, you little runt?" Basically, hello, I'm the baby of the family. I know exactly what was going on there. He said, "What are you doing with that poor little sheep? Who's tending our poor little sheep back in Bethlehem?" For crying out loud. And here, I want you to realize, here is David sitting out there watching the sheep as a little boy with a homemade little instrument. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You see him writing these things, and God speaking powerfully to him, giving him a vision of glories, giving him a vision of how things could be peaceful and no foreign king ruling over the land. And God raised him up and worked powerfully in his life, but he had setback in a way after setback. And you remember, I'm not even going to go over the story of him and Goliath. He has his little stone. Who is this? You sending me a dog? Am I a dog that you're sending out with sticks and stones to fight me? God's powerful. And I want you to see this. So later, this psalm is actually written because David was picked out by Saul to give instruments to him when he had a demon oppression, and David would play before King Saul, and that demon would leave Saul. But David grew in popularity, and Saul went from having him help him to hating him, and he ran him out of Israel. And it's interesting, this Psalms 34 is written by David when he is over in Gath. Gath is a stronghold of the Philistines. So all of a sudden he's over there hiding, and he thinks, I'm pretty safe here. And people start saying, that's David. That's the guy that killed our Goliath. Get him. And so they grabbed a hold of David, and they took him to the king. They took him. Marissa, you did so good. She's not done yet. She's going to see the people. Here, give me a hand there. I want to tell you, if you stop loving these little children, we're in trouble. Amen. Marissa, you're such a blessing. You better listen to your mom, though. All right, we'll see. I wish everybody in this community was so anxious to be up here. But David's down in Gath, and all of a sudden they realize this is David, that little guy with the sling. So they grab him by the nape of the neck, and they take him to the king. And they say, King, this is David. Over in Israel, they have their song, Saul has killed his 1,000, but David has killed his 10,000. Have you ever been in a problem? Every human being, God says, faces problems. Your problems define you by one of two things. They either conquer you or you conquer them. Now, I've been meditating on what David did. David acted like a crazy man. Drooled down all over his beard, and he went over to the place leading out of the king's presence, and he began to scratch on the wall. That's a pretty big gamble. You know, you just simply got to let God lead you. And don't always try to figure it out. And the bigger problem you're in, the more you needed to be led by God. And I want to encourage you, our culture is in a problem. And I want to encourage you, God's well aware of the situation, and He's able and willing to help.